Perfect. We are live. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arnold from Thirst, to attend our piece of puzzle with these exclusive flowers. We're very happy, and I hope people can see us properly. They can hear us. We just said, like, we see real flowers.
Yeah. And I also have a little pot of flowers here, just like to brighten our day. Because before we actually speak to you, we just wanted to share very important information for our industry. Just a couple of minutes ago, we've got a letter from Multiflora, our trading platform in Johannesburg, that according to the president's announcement yesterday night, the Multiflora is be able to trade from the 1st of May again, which is a wonderful, wonderful message for all our farmers here in the country. Obviously, imports will not be so quickly happen because of the flight restrictions, but for all the local farms, we are so happy.
Yes, we're very happy. It's still on 1/3 capacity, but at least there's something happening in the market again.
I must say, safe for a lot of florists.
Yes.
So
now that was us, our part of it. But I think, I mean, we know obviously Thirst, and we know you for a long time already. But I think there are a lot of people out there who have simply no idea yet what is Thirst, or maybe even how they could be part of it, and what makes Thirst different from maybe any other platform that is out there, or is there anything out there that is comparable? So just maybe share
a bit of like your history. We know each other from a little bit a historical part that we both share. If you like, maybe just like go one step back and tell everyone a little bit like what is your link to the flower industry, and how it actually came to what are you doing now?
Wow. Yes, of course. Well, thank you. First, thank you, of course, Sylvia and Elfie, for having me on the live broadcast. I'm very pleased to be here to share my story. Indeed, we go back quite some time. I remember getting a WhatsApp from you or an email that you had Karen Tren over and needed some flowers. And at the time, I was working at Parfum Flower Company, which is an import company and unpacking company, which specializes in scented garden roses. Back then, we sourced mainly from a farm in Kenya, and of course, Alexandra Farms in Colombia. And we got together, and I made sure you received some roses from Kenya, which is...
Thank you again for that.
It was strange for me to see how extremely difficult it actually was. But we managed together to work it out, so that was great. To go now first to Thirst, I'd like to see Thirst as a place where people can share stories. I compare it sometimes a little bit with the Airbnb website. Most people go to Airbnb to rent a space. So I think most people go to Thirst to read a nice story about floriculture. And on the back end, if you have stories to tell, or if you have an apartment to rent or a villa to rent, you can share it. So for me, Thirst is a place where people from the industry can also share their stories. And sharing stories and reading stories, I like to make the place where you connect those two, basically. That's what Thirst is. I myself, I've been in the industry for since I was 15.
Wow.
I'm almost 40.
It was just yesterday.
32 years already.
No.
I've been a florist, actually, in the past as well.
Really?
In Amsterdam, you have a tourist floating flower market. That's where I started on the age of 15. And actually, I'm an economist. I went to university, but ended up in flowers.
Same like me.
So I had my own flower shop. I worked also at a very high-end flower shop in Amsterdam. I worked for a plant wholesale exporting company with a cash and carry. It's called Water Drinker. It's quite well known in Western Europe. And I went working for a flower exporter, sending flowers to the United States, to Asia. Became marketeer, and that's how I got to work for the Parfum Flower Company. I did the marketing there, and I was basically spamming many florist Facebook groups, and one of them, yes, I still am, and one of them was not so active, but Facebook asked me to be the moderator, the how do you say, admin of the group.
Yes.
And it is so that if you are the admin of a Facebook group and you quit, then Facebook asks the person who is submitting the most posts. That was me. And it's a Dutch Facebook group where I connect the grower and the florist, basically. But many traders are also a member. And from that Facebook group onwards, I learned what's actually wanted to read about from the florist side and from the grower side. And I tried to connect it in that group. And from that group, I basically developed Thirst. So that's my story.
Wow. Just tell people again, like your website, or like exactly like how do you spell it, and where can they maybe access it?
The name Thirst comes from Thursday, because here in Western Europe, the Thursday is the slowest day of the week for the trade. So you spell Thirst as Thirst, THURSD.com. And we chose that name also because I think flowers or plants are always thirsty, and people are thirsty for content.
Yes, and for information, like generally, and exchange. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's thirst.com, and how to pronounce it. I'm Dutch, so I'm not a native English speaker, so I always say thirst.
Thirst. Okay.
We understand. So we also have a lot of like somehow Afrikaans speaking people here, so they will even understand your Dutch.
We have to hear some influence there.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so just tell us a little bit. So it's just you register like as a florist, like generally like people who are interested maybe to share a story, or like for whom, like is it for anyone? They can just get in there and read. Is it like free? Is it like, just tell them a little bit about what they can actually get in there.
It's a kind of a magazine. So we have now, this week we have the theme, it's all about colored flowers, painted flowers, dried flowers. And you can basically read whatever you like. So it's not news. It's more like a magazine style. We tend to write it for the middle to high-end segment florists and floral designers. But we are well aware that Thirst is also well read by the people in the trade, by the growers, by the breeders, and all the accessory companies. We always have thought that in the future Thirst will be read by also many consumers. So we developed the website in a way that you can basically find everything where its origin is. So if we have an article about a great flower, we have a product page of that flower, and on the product page of the flowers, you can see who is growing the flower, who is trading the flower, and and which florist or floral designer is buying the flower. So as a consumer, when you read an article, you can also see, hopefully, the florist located near you where you can source the flower from. It's not a trading site, so you cannot buy, but we show you the connection.
Yeah, I like this very much. It's a very open, transparent platform, and it provides information, and it helps actually the entire industry. And I think it is an absolute novum also for our industry, where still a lot of things are not very transparent. Yeah. And I was also very, very thankful that you put South Africa's flower industry a little bit on your map, because you asked us to share our story with actually with the world, and also explain a bit what happens to us here during like the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Even though that the market will be open to trade again, it doesn't mean it will go back to somehow normality. It is still far too early. It's the right way, in the right direction, absolutely. But we are far away from somehow a normality. But also, what I think what would be very interesting for a lot of people here in South Africa, because this is what we always have to explain, how actually the auction in Holland is somehow functioning, because most of the people, even a florist, have not really an idea how this is functioning, and also why this has happened, that so many flowers have been thrown away the last couple of weeks when this all happened. And even for us, like being in the industry, a lot of information was new that we shared like with you a couple of days when we had our personal conversation. I think that would be interesting also to understand, maybe for our future, why maybe we have to call people like Friday morning at 7 o'clock and to ask them, do you want now these flowers? Say yes or no, you know, because this is on auction, and this is actually a thing that you have to decide, not in to say, okay, I'll go back to you in 2 hours, but it has to be now. And why actually is this very sad situation happened, that flowers had to be thrown away?
Yeah, I think everybody who has watched the internet a little bit last couple of weeks and months have seen pictures of tons of flowers being put to waste. What did that to you? Because I think when you see that as somebody who doesn't really understand the auction system in the Netherlands, when you see all the flowers being wasted, what do you feel? Do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? What's it doing? Because I think before I explain how it works, I think the power of the image is very, very strong. And for me, it's also when I see beautiful flowers, expensive flowers being thrown to waste. That's it must be very strange for you to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it saddens your heart. You know, you see that, and you see how many people you could actually have made happy with this amount of flowers. And specifically, I mean, you are in the marketing, we are in the business of pictures and prettiness and beauty, and you see, like, I mean, it's just dumped all on top of each other, and there's all of a sudden no value anymore, like real value in the sense of to just keep a flower alive, and the prettiness and things like this. It's just waste.
Yeah.
We had actually, like, on this days, we had a shipment going out from Holland, and when we realized there was a lot of flowers going to be waste, because the first pictures came out, and that was on that Friday and that Monday. So we tried to get somehow flowers on our shipment, but we couldn't get. And also, as you maybe explained, there's a reason why actually things that leave the auction unsold cannot go anywhere.
Yeah, but I try to explain as good as I can. The whole auction system in the Netherlands is made to have the best price discovery for the grower. The whole auction system is actually made for growers, and it's business. It's a cooperation, so it's a non-profit organization. The Royal Flora Holland auction is actually from all the growers who are member of the auction.
It started out from some growers, right? It has been initiated.
Yes. And it still is. It still is. So the board of directors is chosen by the growers. All the major decisions are being put to your vote for to the growers. So it's in the interest of the growers. That's very important to understand. And a grower nowadays is a bit different than before. larger grower nowadays, they also sell many of their products directly to exporter and wholesaler companies. But before, they only sold everything at the auction, and the auction works with the auction clock. If you really want into the specifics how the auction clock works, I suggest the audience to go to a YouTube, and it's very good explained. So, but basically what the grower is doing, he is only doing what he is good at, and that's making the most beautiful flowers. And then a transport company comes to the farm, they pick up the flowers, and the grower is done with his work, basically. Then the auction system starts. So the flowers are being delivered at the auction, and everybody who is interested can go have a look at them. And because it's all in one space, all the buyers from the products, they will go to look at the flowers, to inspect them, what's the quality, and then they make a list. So all the buyers and the wholesalers, they make lists what they want to buy. For example, they have an order from you. So they know we have to buy, for example, blue delphinium. And they go check which blue delphinium they want to buy for you. So they make a list, a kind of wish list. And then the auction system starts, and then they are going to buy it. And then if there's no demand, which happened on Friday the 13th of all days in March, everybody was nervous and nobody wanted to buy anything. But the flowers were already brought to the auction. And then they made an agreement that what all the growers have agreed upon for many years. If there's no buyer, it should be wasted, because it cannot be that the flowers are being sold for a lower price than somebody else might be paying for it. And then I have to really say, for example, if you have a Lysianthus, for example, the cost price of a Lysianthus is 30 cents. The grower brings it to the auction and he normally gets 40, 45 cents for the Lysianthus, and he is very happy. But Friday the 13th, he gets 10 cents, 12 cents, 5 cents, and even half of it is being wasted. Now, it cannot be that the person who buys the Lysianthus for 12 cents, who is going to sell it for 25 cents, I don't know, it doesn't matter. And then a florist who buys it for 25 cents, then another florist next door gets them for free. That's just not possible, because then the florist next door who gets it for free makes a profit, although he has not been paying the grower. And it's a bit of a strange story, but it's the whole wasting of flowers which are not being sold on the clock is actually to protect the grower.
It's an economic decision by the end of the day, you know. It's like there are two things. This is like the one side you look at the things with your heart, and you just it's painful, you know, when you see this and you're like, why can it not be donated to, I don't know, to charity funds like old age homes, whatever, not for resale. I mean, restricted maybe not.
And they did. But,
yes.
But suppose I'm a florist. I have my flower shop next to a big elderly home. Most of my customers are the elderly from that elderly home. Yeah. And I make good business. Every day I sell flowers to elderly people. And then they get the flowers for free for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's an economic decision.
It's balancing out. But it's my personal opinion. Rather make people happy for free in a difficult situation than wasting resources. Because also, like what is my personal opinion, every grower has made a lot of effort in growing flowers. A lot of people have made a lot of effort to bring the flowers to the point where they actually ready for trade, and to value also their work and their effort. I think rather to give something away it shouldn't be a normal situation.
I understand this, that it should not be a normal case, but this was really an unprecedented, scenario. This was something, and it was so suddenly, like it was like, whoa, okay, from one day to the other, this happened, and I fully agree that it should not be that someone gets something for free, whereas someone else has to actually really put money on the table for it, and that is not a scenario. This just made, I think, the whole world a little bit like it was in shock when they saw the pictures. Like, why?
They're shocked. And that's actually what, and a lot of people sent me these pictures actually because I saw it, but a lot of people wanted just to share when they saw it, and they say, "Have you actually seen that? Why we cannot get these flowers?" People were really like, "Yeah, I have no other word. That was a shock actually." And I think that for whatever, maybe in brackets, good reason it was done, but it has caused a bit also a damage for the entire flower industry.
Oh, it definitely had. And even worse, the people who say, oh, you could have given them to me, they only want, I'm sorry to say, they want to have them because they're free. So and they wouldn't buy it for the normal price. So, so what did happen on that Friday the 13th was that the demand dropped with, I think, 80%. And there is no demand. So when people say, well, you could have given them to me, that's not real demand. And what you see a lot all around the world, actually, that farms, they are selling now the products to consumers at their doors in very limited numbers. So it's like a drop, but still they do it. And they, for example, sell 50 tulips for €5. And normally you cannot buy 50 tulips for €5 on the auction. So consumers, they see now prices which are so extremely low that when this all COVID-19 period is over, they will go to a florist and they say 10 tulips for €5. But I bought them at the grower €50, 50 tulips for €5. You're 5 times more expensive as the grower. But the grower actually, in order to grow a tulip, needs 15 to 20 cents. So what's also happening now is that because of the selling directly of some growers and the public prices they offer, they actually do quite some damage for the future prices also, which I am
undercutting in a way their own prices at that stage.
It's walking on the edge, balancing out of, like, for every farm, what is necessary to do to survive maybe the next couple of weeks or months to get whatever they get.
They also have people to pay.
Yes, I mean, they have to think of what is good for the future business. I think that I do understand that every farm has to make its own decision. Maybe some are in a good position to say, okay, we have in South Africa, we have even spoken to farms. They say, because we are going now into our winter season, right? And they say they don't even start growing flowers right now because our industry is very much related to events, to the event industry, not so much to shops like what we know from Europe or from other countries in the world. We have very limited shops here. Maybe this will take now because I can imagine that when people have no income in the event industry, they might actually open a shop or a delivery service for flowers or whatever, which is a good thing. I think out of the bad situation, a lot of good things will also happen. But they say they are not going to grow for this coming season because they don't see that demand, because the event industry will not pick up for this year. So we've been in touch with a lot of people in the event industry because of the event company. But most of the events have been postponed to next year.
Yeah.
So that is actually where the reality is.
And that is, of course, also turnover, which is not going to come back at any time. It's just gone.
Yes.
I am not telling those growers not to do what they do. I understand that they do it because they need some liquidity. They need some money. I understand completely, but it's not only the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it has a long-term effect. Whatever is done right now in the marketplace obviously will affect pricing and everything when actually things get to a certain normality again and prices are questioned very much because things are normal or possible, which is actually not reflecting the reality of costs and overhead, like just expenses. It just sort of to get somehow some money in the pockets. That something can be covered by it, but it's not covering actually the whole process of growing flowers at that stage.
No, and besides that, it could also be that in September, October, some flowers, I think in general, flowers will be extremely expensive because there will be less flowers. There are many growers. There are many growers at the moment who are deciding: do I plant or do I not plant? Now, do I put the seed in the ground or do I put a small plant in the ground? Yes or no at this time. And some flowers, you have to understand there is a huge Lysianthus grower here in the Netherlands. I think they produce more than 1 million stems a week, 1 million, and they sell 30 to 40% of their normal production. So maybe it's 500,000 stems what they do not sell right now. They have to cut it from the plant. It's still growing. They cannot stop the growing. And when they have to put a new plant, and maybe they decide, well, we are just going to plant half for the summer period. And when everything gets back to normal in the summer period, and you want Lysianthus, there will be a shortage. And that's the balance of supply and demand, which is, I think, is going to be heard for the months and maybe years to come.
It will have be a big impact the last couple of weeks. What will come, and a lot of clients also ask me, and that's why I think it's interesting what you say. First of all, will there be imports? And we always say yes, there will be imports, but we do not know when, because it depends all on what flights will be available, how much the flights will cost, because this is also something at the moment, like what we experience here. You can send cheaper stuff from, let's say, from Johannesburg to Holland than from Johannesburg to Cape Town. This is 4 times more expensive for now than sending flowers somewhere else. And also like the exchange rate, because we are so much depending on the dollar or euro exchange rate at the moment. It's ridiculous. We come from 1 to 16, 1 to over 20 at the moment. This is 20% more, like just for buying one flower, and that adds up 20% more, which is quite scary actually for us, where a lot of Holland flowers already have been, for our market, expensive. Not necessarily because we buy them expensive, but also we have to add the transport cost, there's import cost and duty and all those kinds of stuff, and the logistics behind.
And now, I mean, as I was saying, now it's like we will get less varieties to choose from over the couple of next months, because growers will just hold on maybe to their crop and say, okay, fine, let's maybe just postpone things to a little bit a later stage where they know that they can actually sell like their whole capacity and not work on a third or 2/3 or whatever capacity that they have.
I know. I have heard stories of many rose growers who have just chopped the crop and then in 6 to 8 weeks they will have new roses. So there will be no roses for 6 to 8 weeks from those farms. And about transport costs, there are only some cargo airplanes still flying. But did you know that actually most of the flowers are not going with cargo airplanes? They go with normal airplanes, and they don't fly anymore. So the cargo is also extremely expensive at the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe you have here, just like our situation here, South African Airways was in trouble for a couple of months, for a long time. And they would have needed more support, like governmental support, but the government has like to put money now to in totally different fields, like coming over for the COVID-19 health like support crisis. So they had,
like, we do not have a national airline anymore. SAA is not going to survive. They have announced that they have retrenched, or they will retrench now, all SAA staff. So we do not have a national airline anymore, which also like puts us in a different situation, because now we are actually depending on other countries' carriers to service South Africa as a market.
I think we cannot really foresee what's going to happen in the months to come till December, January. I think it will be quite a surprise every week, every month, what we see will happen with the flower industry.
Day by day, actually. We also, like, even the new announcement, there's a lot of question marks still, like what is possible, because at the moment, even if you can buy flowers or can trade flowers, is there a logistic at the moment that even can bring the flowers even in the country from one point to the other one, because travel is also not permitted. So that means even if in Johannesburg flowers are allowed to trade, how do you get them maybe to Cape Town or to Durban or to any other places, because you can't actually bring them maybe across the provinces. But we will see, like, and
we are hopeful, and I mean, as long as everyone is healthy, we are happy that that is. But maybe just also from a point of view, like, I mean, you're in Holland, we're in South Africa. Maybe share also a little bit of the COVID-19 situation right now. So what are you dealing with maybe on a daily basis, or like what is the effect of that? How freely maybe you can move right now? Are there still a lot of restrictions, or I mean, I know a lot of stories from Germany. Is that sort of similar? Are you opening up now? So just maybe share a little bit of that. We also know, like, what's your personal situation right now.
If you listen to the news here, you hear the word 1.5 meter economy, I think 10,000 times a day. The government is saying keep your distance. So every activity which is closer to 1.5 meter, it's not allowed. So the hairdressers, sports, the schools are still closed. They want to open up the schools for children till the age of 12, half of May. And they've postponed all large gatherings, so larger festivals, till September.
They canceled the Oktoberfest already in Germany, so this is what I already read as well. So, and that's huge. I mean, that is culturally and like for the mood of the people generally, it's a huge step for a government to actually say that.
Is weddings like in small numbers and funerals, is this permitted?
If you keep your distance, I think so. I'm not really sure. But the restaurants and hotels are still closed. But everybody now, every industry has to prepare for the 1.5 meter distance. So the government is collecting all these plans from all these different industries. There was a story about the cinemas yesterday. How can the cinema be open maybe with 25% of the people coming to watch films. How is the public transport going to work? Maybe with 10 to 15% of the travelers, and then who is allowed to travel? Are that the jobs who are important? For example, when you work in healthcare, or and maybe then you can travel or cannot. I think it's. I think people are getting a bit fed up with it. They don't see so many. Of course, there are many people dying and there are many people sick, but it's not so very confronting at the moment, and it's actually going a little bit better. That the schools are going to be opened for the children aged up to 12 is, I think, a positive thing, but also they have to keep the 1.5 meter distance, so they may be going to do it in 2 shifts. And we have here the group age above 60 is a risk group, is what they say everywhere. And we have quite a lot of teachers who are in that risk group. So, and how can you ask a teacher of over 60 to go teach children, and on the other hand, ask the teacher not to visit his grandchildren? That's very strange. So there is
contradicting. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then I hear that in Germany the flower shops are going to be opened. In Scandinavia, actually, there's nothing strange going on. There are a lot of flowers going to Scandinavia as normal. And France is completely closed. And Italy is slowly opening. The UK is slowly opening. So I am positive that I think we hear different news half of May, that I hopefully our Dutch national government will say, well, I think we have got better control. Let's make it a little bit easier for everyone, and let's skip the 1.5 meters. I am hopeful, but I'm not sure.
Let life come back to all of us.
Yeah.
And that's actually something that we all hope. But thank you so much for sharing. I think great insights also about how Netherlands is doing, and how flower trade generally is perceived in the Netherlands also right now. For me, it was really very interesting to hear and to listen to.
Maybe I can add one small thing about the wasting of flowers, because when it's not sold at the auction, it must be wasted. But then the auction said you can only bring 30 or 40% of what you normally bring. So don't think that the wasting is over now. It is still happening, but it's happening at the growers. So we are still in very dire straits still, and I am a bit worried that many growers will not survive the coming weeks.
Yes, which is very, very, very sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, it sounds maybe hard, but in any century there was crisis, and I also think when crises happen, there's people that come out stronger, and there's other people or companies they not survive, which gives maybe a lot of pain for those people, but also maybe a lot of more chances for those surviving, and also maybe for chances for new things.
New things to emerge out of this. And I think this is then very economical. I mean, this is just a process, that is just happening. You cannot expect things to just be forever. As much as also we hope that, and we have to innovate. And I think that is now actually the time when you are a company that shows that you can be innovative, and you can actually try to somehow still be in touch with your customer and stay relevant in a certain way. Then you can come out at the other end stronger, or at least still there. I mean, I don't think anyone really, except for the food business, which means really where you can buy food, has any benefit out of this situation. I think there's more people who cook and bake and just eat at home. But other than that, there's just really no company that is not struggling at the moment. But I think now, like, your strength will be determined by what can you take away from the situation and how can you turn around your business.
But I also think like your platform will be helpful for a lot of growers to get connected and to have people like to get other people note of that maybe have not been known about that, and to get demands on their products. And I think you are a wonderful piece of our piece of puzzle stories, because that shows that we are all so much connected, and if there's one piece left out of the puzzle is not complete.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, and I think generally communication, specifically in time of crisis, is key. And also to inspire people when they read stories or when they hear about how are other people doing, because we are not alone in this. You know, everyone is struggling in a different part of the world, or everyone sort of has stories that relate to some other people. And I think it's great if there's a platform like this where people can read and can share that, and they can connect with each other, because by the end of the day, we're all human. We need this connection, and it's great to have someone here on a social media platform, but it's always different if you can actually really physically connect to a person and reach out and say, hey, I read your story, it's great, or how can I assist you, or what can I do for you, and that goes vice versa, like for the two sides. So
and we all need flowers. We just like a couple of days ago, we initiated a petition that we are actually we have done for our industry to be able to sell flowers as an essential service. And a lot of florists have signed and grower. And there's also so many people, like ordinary people, they make comments like, just, we need flowers. We need
flowers are essential. You know, they're essential for well-being.
They make us happy.
They make people happy. It just spreads positivity. I mean, just when I see also your orchids in the back, it's just somehow, you know, it just makes the room completely different than if it wouldn't be there. And I think that's why it's beautiful to be surrounded with flowers and give people from the industry also a platform. Without the growers, there would be no florists. Without the florists, there wouldn't be people that could get flowers in their homes. Oh wow!
No, definitely, and it's not woo-woo, but it's actually also scientifically proven. Plants do improve your health. It's good for your well-being. People are less sick. They feel better. It's all proven. So, and that's what we did also in the beginning of the crisis in the Netherlands. We spread out messages with that story. The positive vibes, buy flowers and plants, they're good for you. And I think we all did that together. And I think all together we made sure that more flowers and plants were being sold, which otherwise wouldn't have been sold. Yes. So I think it's an essential thing in your life, flowers and plants, as well as food and good talks.
Yeah, that's true. And what I wanted to say, I didn't want to interrupt you. What I can say, I can tell you a secret. When we went shopping the last day before lockdown, right? This is one of the plants that we actually bought, and we bought all of them in the shop. Because we were quite late at 3 o'clock or whatever, and we bought all of the plants, and we said, okay, we have to actually make us happy.
Yes, we didn't know it would need 5 weeks until
it was meant to be 3 weeks.
Yeah, things will ease up again, but we see them growing, and I think that's also something beautiful if you can see something is growing, you know, is evolving, is changing, a color, a shape, stem length, and it just makes you realize that it's a life piece.
I even try the dry flowers that they actually drop, so that I still have dry flowers.
Talking to the flowers too. But thank you so much, Arnold, for your time.
Yeah.
Arnold, Test. So if people are interested, they can just check it out, test.com.
Yeah.
And we hope maybe to see also people from South Africa join, see, read what other people have to say and be inspired by their stories.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.